And that should do it. All right, Andrew. I got the Betamax player working again.
Oh, cool. Did you use the Konami code on it?
I did. We used the Konami code on the remote control that's physically attached to the Betamax player.
Perfect. So I figured that would work. You know, I worked in Street Fighter. It had to work in this.
It worked in Street Fighter?
I don't know.
That's amazing. I didn't know that. Like Street Fighter the movie?
Yes, with JCVD. If you punch that in right when he's giving his speech about everybody getting to go home, you actually get to see a picture of how much coke he did while he made that movie.
That makes far more sense on how that movie was made.
We want to go home.
I love DVD technology. I didn't know you could do that. That's amazing.
It's amazing.
So our 1954 copy of Gojira is still intact, safe. We are reusing the tape from last week in hopes that someone will hear us. Andrew, please tell everyone, why are we here? What are we doing here?
You know, it's been crazy, but we're trapped in a movie store. We the pandemic came, it hit, and we got rushed in here by our own anxieties and fears, knowing what comes with the pandemic, you know, zombies and monsters and kaiju and the like. So we hauled up in here and barricaded ourselves into this video store. You know, if I remember correctly, I know it's posted everywhere, but I didn't think it's just a suggestion. It's the store's name is actually called Rewind. And I thought
that is on the wall? I thought that was like a suggestion to the people renting movies.
That's what I thought too. I thought that it was just reminding you to rewind your tapes. You know, Be Kind, Rewind. But no, that's actually the name of the video store we're in. So that now I have a location. We're in Rewind Video. If you know where that is, please come rescue us. We're here. If you're alive, if you can make it safely, reach out, contact us. But we've been sitting here watching these old movies, these bad movies, because we ran out of the good movies to watch quite a while ago. And, you know, we've been dealing with some mysteries here as we watch and reach out to everybody. We've been going through and we heard some noises that terrified us that we've been monitoring very closely, one of which being a very loud mechanical noise that comes almost weekly.
It's almost like specifically at the same time weekly. It keeps waking us up every week.
And it's terrifyingly loud and mechanical, and there's all this noise and crumbling. So we keep track of that, and we make sure to stay calm and hidden. And the other adventure we've been going on is somebody dropped something into our late night return box.
Yes. Oh my goodness. We have a great update about this. Andrew. We found the key.
We found the key.
We found the key to the locked lockbox.
And it was right in front of us the whole time.
The whole time.
We turned this door upside down.
It was what?
It was in front of us the whole time. We never knew. We had no idea. We turned the store upside down. We looked everywhere.
Oh, we turned the store upside down. I thought you meant physically. Like, dude, I am not that strong. I am not eating healthy enough to turn the store upside down.
Yeah, and you couldn't go outside to flip it. Even I mean, there's a pandemic out there.
There's aliens. There's zombies.
So we were looking around it, and the mystery of this box had been plaguing us for weeks. And finally, you know, after taking a nice long swig of my Amp energy drink, I looked up and I saw something glimmering in the light. And lo and behold, taped to the poster of the movie License to Drive were the keys. And we missed them because in the poster, Corey Haim is holding keys dangling from his finger. And they taped them so perfectly, I thought they were part of the poster.
Was that Corey Haim or Corey Feldman? I can never tell them apart.
Yes, they were both in that.
But who was holding the keys?
Yes, Corey.
Oh, good. Whew, that settles everything.
Right. Okay. I know it's confusing sometimes.
I get confused very easily nowadays.
Well, you know, our diet's not the greatest, and we haven't left the house in a while. And when I say house, I can't believe I'm calling this video store our house.
Well,
but it is kind of.
Baron Munchausen syndrome kind of sets in, so.
Big time. You know, we're lucky we're both still sane.
Speaking of sane, what are you eating?
You know, I found some Chuckles today, and they still feel kind of soft. So I'm gonna dive in on those because they are fruit flavored. So I assume they were made with real fruit juice, or at least 10%.
It says fruit, Fruit. So that is obviously fruit.
And right, and what you got to stay away from is fruit, which is spelled Fyrt. That is imitation fruit. That is not real fruit.
It's not real.
Yeah, I've actually heard that they take the wax fruit that you see in various places, and yep, that's what fruit is. Fruit with a Y.
That's very fruity. I don't know where I'm going with that.
Kind of like our actor in this movie. No, I'm sorry. That was mean.
That was a good transition, but let's stay on target because I'm drinking Crystal Pepsi, Andrew.
Ooh,
I found an entire flat of it in the back room.
Well, shit, I might have one too, and I'll go on a fucking trip with you because that's.
Ooh, speaking of flat.
Oh,
that is flat.
But I'm sure the euphoria it brings, wasn't Crystal Pepsi the one where Cindy Crawford was buying it from the? No, that was regular Pepsi.
No, that was uranium from the Libyans.
Oh yeah,
plutonium from the Libyans. Yeah,
the Libyans. I love that movie.
So this week we were redeemed and saved from the horrors of last week, from the horrors of Zen filmmaking. We were introduced to a film that actually had, hold on, wait for it, a script.
And it might not have been the best written script, but it was cohesive. Like, eventually, I got there and I figured out what the fuck was going on in this movie. But I didn't get there in Roller Gator.
No. I was about to say, like, did we ever get there in Roller Gator? No, Roller Gator was but that was last week. Let's talk this week. I mean, we only have so much time on this beta tape. We need to let the world know we are still alive. Andrew, let's go through the plot of the incomparable, amazing, and awkwardly titled Slime City.
Slime City, the title that affects a whole populace, yet really only shows one person. So this movie, just to give a little dating for you all, it was filmed in 1988, and it was written and directed by Greg Lamberson. Has a runtime of 81 minutes. Roller Gator had a shorter runtime, I think, and you felt every minute of that. This one I could get through like 20, 30 minutes before I would do like a little time check. So that's good. Typically if I'm checking the time to see how much is left more than I think I should be, that means it's not entertaining. So this one I didn't check. Maybe twice I checked just to get a gauge. So I was pretty engaged in it. So this movie really stems around a guy wanting to fuck his girlfriend.
That is essentially the plot of the film. Yes.
Yep. She pretty much gives him an ultimatum, and she says, I ain't going to spread for no roses. You got to get your own apartment. So he goes, Alex is our main character. I don't know if I'd call him a hero, maybe an anti-hero.
Protagonist.
Protagonist. His girlfriend is Lori, and they've been together for time. And they go and rent an apartment, or he goes to rent an apartment from these old women who are very enthusiastic about him having an apartment. And the apartment is filled with a cast of characters. You've got the two old ladies that live there. I couldn't figure out if they were a couple or if they were just neighbors or co-owners.
It actually did feel that way. It felt almost progressive because they felt like very old friends, but they felt like more than friends. They were very keen. And of course, as the plot continues, you understand why. But in the beginning of the movie, I thought it was a very gay-friendly film for a multitude of reasons.
Absolutely. I agree 100% with you. We meet our other two people living in the apartment. We have Roman, who dresses like a greaser from the 50s, and we have oh gosh, what was her name?
Nicole.
Nicole, the goth fan that lives in a room that is decorated to resemble a burnt apartment for some reason.
It reminded me more of like what the inside of Night of the Living Dead house would be like with the boarded up doors that were broken down and everything blacked and painted and just burnt and disgusting. Yeah.
It just that was kind of odd.
A little bit. So Alex moves in, but Lori doesn't, and I think that's a huge plot point. So Alex moves into his apartment. He is a college art student. And the reason he moves into this apartment is because now him and Lori can finally have sex. And Lori still is not comfortable with it, so Alex starts to get a little angry.
We'll say testy.
Yeah. So he starts to see the gothy Nicole, who is bringing home random dudes, and he finds her very sexy, even to go so far as to quote her as when she enters the apartment at some point when he's feeling very upset and sad and lonely. He goes to Nicole. He goes, "I shouldn't be here." And she goes, "Well, I turn you on, don't I?" And without a second breath, he just mutters, "God, yes." So I think at this point, his sexual urges are taking over more than the relationship between him and Lori. So he's starting to become acclimated with the apartment. He befriends Roman, who is an old poet or an old soul poet.
Yes.
And here's where it kind of caught me off guard. So Roman, who is digging through the garbage can one morning trying to find something cool, invites our protagonist, Alex, over to dinner. And at this point, in any other film, the protagonist would walk away and say, "That guy's fucking creepy. I'm going to stay as far away from him as possible." But Alex is a kind guy. He actually goes over to the apartment, and Roman makes him a meal of
nourishment.
He does not call
You made him nourishment.
Which resembles pistachio pudding.
Yes, or Himalayan yogurt.
And that is what they actually call it, Himalayan yogurt.
It's very specific because Roman explains this away by saying he's a vegetarian.
And actually, he apologizes to Alex when he says that. Goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, I should have told you I'm a vegetarian." And this kind of caught me off guard because I think in so many movies, people tend to be dicks. They're just like, "Well, I'm a vegetarian. I'm going to do this just to get through the script," because the writer's thinking, "Well, I'm just going to tell it like it is." Where in this movie, it's like the characters actually are kind of considerate to each other.
Yeah, it was nice to see nice people in even what's her name, Nicole? I can't remember. Mm-hmm. I just keep thinking of her as Hooker.
Yes.
she's actually she's a little more aggressive, but she's nice. Everybody's, even the old ladies are really nice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of interesting to note that, knowing what they are.
Yes, as the plot progresses, they are different. But so Alex eats the green slime, and he actually finds it tasty and enjoyable.
Right, and Roman is eating a blue slime, and
because his color is blue.
Exactly,
as he states.
Because Alex says, "Why is yours blue?" And Roman says, "Because that's my color." And I'm perfectly fine with that answer. Let's move on.
So
my color's blue. My color's green.
The other thing they had at the dinner was an alcohol. And it looked like absinthe. It was green in color. It was a special alcohol made by the person who originally owned the building back in the 50s.
Yes, and he was special because he was an alchemist.
Mm-hmm.
And this was part of his alchemy, was this wine.
Now, if you're getting confused listening to this, you're not alone.
Yes.
This is the plot so far, and this is exactly how it moves. As the story progresses on, Alex needs this green Himalayan yogurt more and more. He actually craves it. So his fridge is filled with it, and he's eating it. Roman, is it Roman or Nicole who takes him to the basement?
That's a good question.
I don't remember who took him down
he
there.
actually goes by himself because he was in Nicole's room, and Nicole confronts him, and they have a little bit of an argument, and then he goes to the basement after that, if I remember correctly.
Okay, so he goes to the basement and he finds two
yes,
big bookshelves built into the wall, one filled with the alcohol bottles, all with tinfoil on top, which I thought was a shitty choice.
They couldn't afford wax.
They couldn't afford anything else.
They got to keep that shit fresh, though.
I think we're going to touch on that later, but I think it's very apparent right now to discuss that the budget for this looks extremely low. Like,
oh yes,
everything leading up to the end of the movie was a shoestring budget at best. So the other bookshelf is filled with 4 different colors of slime: orange, yellow, green, and blue.
Yes.
And at the very top of the bookshelf is a row of books. And one of the old women appeared before him and say, "Oh, you found the slime, blah, blah." And she tells him the whole history of the slime, which is Andrew.
So the history of the slime is actually pretty interesting, and this kind of drew me into it. But the alchemist, he was the creator of the slime and the wine. And, God, I don't even remember some of the backstory they give, but I believe it was a lot of it was detailed in a book called Flesh Control.
Yes.
And essentially there was a cult that he was the leader of,
mm-hmm.
and they lived in the apartment that he owned. And I don't remember what the inciting incident was, but the cultists that followed this man killed themselves in the house. Or
it was a big mass suicide, yes.
Yes, it was a big mass suicide. Everybody died. But the slime and all of that remained.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not sure how the first step was made.
This is what I had a question with, too.
But the cultists are coming back and possessing other people's bodies.
Now, this was not discussed or shown in the film, but Alex leaps to the assumption that, wait a minute, the dead people are now living in the inhabitants of the people of the apartment building.
So our female Nicole, our female neighbor Nicole, her name is not actually Nicole. That is the name of the cultist that killed herself in the basement. The girl who we know as Nicole is actually, she had a different name, and she was kind of like a goody two shoes type person, as they describe.
Mm-hmm.
The only inkling that we lead up to this in showing that this is happening, and I don't know if you remember this, dude. After he dines at Roman's, he goes home and he has a dream, and the dream is in black and white. That's how we know it's a dream.
Mm-hmm.
And he sits at a table with a shrouded man who pours him a glass of wine and offers it to him.
Yeah,
and I believe if we wanted to go like compare that to like a Rosemary's Baby, this is the scene where the devil is fucking her, so this is where the transition of that power, and he willfully accepts this invitation for this alchemist to possess his body. Essentially, it's in that scene.
Okay, I didn't pick that up. I don't think it was shot well enough for me to.
Oh, it was not. I am connecting dots.
Digest
probably
that.
Should not be connected.
No, but I think you're touching on it really good here, because that would be a good indicator of how the progression of the subplots are coming along. So, So he accepts the ghost of the cult leader, which I'm blanking on the name of.
He was Nathan something.
Zachary,
that's what it was.
Zachary something. And then he is being possessed by Zachary, the cult leader, and the author of Flesh Control.
And another thing I'm going to jump back to here really quick, because Nicole and Alex did have sex.
With pants on.
With pants on. It was fully clothed sex. That happens before... Was it before he goes to dinner at Roman or directly after?
That was after, because Roman's dinner was pretty early on,
Right.
and then he has he's jaded that Lori won't sleep with him.
Right, and he's giving into his carnal urges because she's there and willing. But I don't know if I just remembered this. When they're having fully closed sex, she screams out the name, "Oh, Zachary."
Correct.
So she knows.
Which goes to the whole point that, yes, everyone in the apartment knows who they are. They are the possessed people. They are not the real people that their bodies are. And it also shows that the cult was a sex cult.
Yes.
So the sex was a big indicator. It was a very physical kind of cult, which leads into the rest of the plot.
Which there's still questions I have, but we're going to get into this really quickly. So all of this is going on, and as he's eating the slime and craving and eating more of the slime and drinking more of the wine, we have a very linear progression of events where you eat the slime, you drink the wine, your body turns slimy. And when your body turns slimy, and for Alex it turns a yellow slime, which doesn't make sense because his slime color is green, but whatever, we won't get into that yet. So he has a yellow slime, and when you become slimy, for the moment, it's a transition of power. So when you are slimy, you are being possessed at that moment. They will then murder somebody, and then immediately, the person takes their last breath, and immediately the person's back to normal. So I guess the question, and I don't think it fully gets answered at all. It
does not.
Why the fuck would anybody? What advantage does the slime offer them?
I don't think it is an advantage. I don't think it's like a symbiotic relationship. Think like, Spider-Man with the Venom suit. I think it's more of the body is craving murder, and in order to appease it, it has to kill, and then the slime just it immediately goes away. Like it'll cut from a shot where the full body is full in slime, and then cut back to
he's
completely normal. Yeah,
even his clothes.
Like there's no progression; it's just immediate.
Yeah.
So I think it's more of a crave than it is a enhancement.
And I guess it makes sense if you want to draw a comparison to like Aleister Crowley and the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, which was the coven group. He was a magic group that he was a part of, where it was a very it was very encouraging of I guess for no better way that I can think of to say it, like sins of the flesh. So like in these groups, they would practice quote unquote magic with a K, and they would have giant orgies, and they would allow themselves to indulge in all of their carnal behaviors. So I guess murder would be part of that, and murdered because they could, not for any other reason, just because they can. And maybe that's part of the murder thing.
Okay.
Because there's no collecting souls, or I need virgins, or there's nothing like that in regards to the bringing back of Zachary. It seems like that's happening one way or the other. So there's no real drive for them to murder. It's just because they want to.
Okay.
Is what I walked away with.
I mean, that makes complete sense, because I think the murder aspect never really felt like it had a point. And you're right. It's not like you have to kill 300 people in order to gather their souls so this one soul can be resurrected. It was just carnal urges.
Right.
So I think maybe you're right. Maybe it was just I can murder, so I'm going to, and then that satiates me.
Right. And I won't get caught because this isn't my body.
Right. Yeah. And then whatever happens to the body, fuck them.
Yeah, I'm already dead. Who fucking cares?
So now that we discussed what that is, what is the slime? The slime itself is not just slime, it's ectoplasm.
It is ectoplasm, right. And as we know, ectoplasm is what comes out of ghosts, as we learned in the 1920s, or earlier than that, the early 1900s spiritualism craze.
I learned about it through Ghostbusters, so...
Yeah, there was actually a whole it's actually kind of, and I'm sorry if I'm going on a tangent here, but if you look up spiritualism from the early 1900s, it's actually fairly interesting. It started with the Fox sisters, and they were charlatans that said they could summon spirits from the dead in these big seances, and they would make sounds and do things. They could throw their voices. They could crack their knuckles to make it sound like someone knocking on the table, like their toe knuckles and stuff. So like they were conning people into thinking that they were conjuring spirits, but they started this whole craze of people believing essentially in what we would consider now the supernatural and the paranormal. And part of that craze was ectoplasm pictures. So they would take spiritual mediums to haunted locations or to seances, and they would set them up essentially inside a booby-trapped cage. They would put the spiritualist in there, or the medium. They would put candles, they would put bells, anything that could be visibly seen or heard to make sure that the spiritualist wasn't leaving the designated area, or they weren't doing anything to affect their surroundings. And then that would verify the results they got when they would become possessed by a spirit. Or in the ectoplasm pictures, they would like make it look like they had ectoplasm coming out of their orifices, like their nostrils and their earlobes, and it was really just cotton. But it was this huge craze. So I think kind of that play, because that was happening around the same time as the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. So I think this kind of is playing on old Aleister Crowley topics. Sorry, that's a huge tangent.
No, that was enlightening. That was really cool. And I think to get a better grasp of where I think media and films come from, I think it's very important to know the past, and because we can be entertained, but I think you can always look at a film a little bit deeper if you know history.
Yeah, I agree. And knowing kind of like I always like to find the stories and stuff behind it. That's why I love, even though these movies are kind of crappy that we're watching, people put a lot of work into some of these, and they really thought that they were sending a message.
Agreed.
And I like trying to find that.
Me too. And even movies like Birdemic, which are ham-fisted and fucking terrible, at least he had a vision. At least he had something to say, and it wasn't just, hey, here's a bunch of tits on the screen to make money. Right. I actually wanted to say something.
Right. And actually, you make a good point, because you bring up tits on the screen. For a movie that's about carnal pleasures and it's so sexually focused, there's no nudity.
I was actually surprised about that, like almost pleasantly surprised, because they didn't have to dip into the nudity thing, what every movie at this point in time was.
Yeah.
And it made it more compelling to me. When they got to the sexy scenes, like Alex and Nicole having sex, or later on in the film, Nicole doing a sexy dance, it wasn't over-sexualized, but it felt more almost ritualistic.
Yeah, and it still felt smutty. Because she's wearing very skimpy negligee or whatever you want to call that stuff.
It felt like a shitty music video, yeah.
Yeah, a shitty metal music video, absolutely.
Right.
But again, to your point, it was there, and it fit the bill. They just didn't. They had the erotic qualities. They just didn't show nudity.
Mm-hmm.
But I've diverted our conversation from the plot a little bit. So to jump us back on track, or to take us right back to the Shire, because we were in Mordor. So we
did go off walking there.
Yeah, we did, and that's my fault.
All right, Andrew, what do your movie critic eyes see?
So, should we finish giving the plot?
Yeah. I'd say let's sum up the rest of the movie.
Okay. So we know that there's 3 different colors of slime now, and
four, but like 3 that are really talked about.
Yeah, 3 that are talked about, 4 in total. And so now, surprisingly enough, Alex and Laurie are still dating. And the whole movie, she's really forcing and pressing him to come over for dinner with her parents. So we go to dinner after he slurps down a shit ton of slime, and we have dinner at the smallest dinner table ever in an apartment. And it is here that Laurie announces to her family and to Alex that she's moving in with Alex. That kind of came out of nowhere.
That really happened. I honestly thought that was like I was making that part up in my head.
Nope, it really happened. She's like, I'm moving in with him. And then he was like, maybe we should wait. And she's like, well, you've been begging me to move in. And I'm like, he literally hasn't spoken to you more than twice since he's moved into this apartment.
Right.
What's shit going on?
And was this after the medium scene or before the medium scene?
Oh gosh, that's right. That is after they meet the Harbinger.
Okay, so Lori's in a park out of nowhere, because I was thinking like how nice it would be to, actually make this scene doable story-wise. But no, this woman just literally appears out of nowhere, grabs Lori's wrist and say, you're in grave danger, or your loved one is grave danger. Bring $1 to my boudoir and I will tell you your fortune.
Man, psychics were cheap in the 80s.
But then she does explain it, because the $1 is not a financial payment. It's proof that you believe in what I'm trying to say. And, oh God, what did she say? She said it in a very certain way. The faith. Money is not money, it's faith.
Right.
So from now on, when we finally get out of here, Andrew, I'm going to have so much saved faith in my bank account, if banks are still a thing.
Yeah, dude.
Excited. Yeah.
No, I'm with you. That faith, oh man, we're gonna come out with a whole nother language that only you and I know, and it's just gonna be movie references.
So much faith. I mean, they did not have enough faith to make this movie.
No, they did not have faith. They had enough faith to get some cool things done at the end.
They had a lot of faith at the end. They had a whole congregation of faith at the end of this movie. So what happens after the dinner scene? Because I think this is kind of where the movie kind of blurs in my mind a little bit.
Yeah, so things kind of moved really quick. So they're at their uncomfortable dinner. Lori announces she's going to move in, and Alex says, you know what, now's not the right time. I'm dealing with some things. And then cut to slime-filled, bandaged-up Alex walking in an alley, and he's finding a hooker to come home with him. It is a total jump cut. They just do not resolve the dinner scene. You don't even know that he leaves. He's just walking and he's bandaged. That's
why I thought it was so weird, because I was like, oh God, did the tape skip or something? Nope. But tapes don't skip. Anyway,
absolutely not.
He brings the hooker back. He kills the hooker, and then somehow later in the film, a cop approaches him who is working on the hooker case.
Yes, and he's friends with all the hookers.
I love the hooker case.
And this cop is so mean.
He's so aggressive.
He's so aggressive and so mean. But the fact that he's like, I was friends with that whore. Like, you're friends with her, yet you
still call her a whore.
Yeah, like, that's kind of fucking weird. And he's just really... Yeah, he's overly aggressive, overly assertive, overly assumptive. He is that. If he was in an 80s action movie, he would have been the captain more than he would have been a detective.
Yes. And he gives a lot of information he probably shouldn't, because he is a cop working on a case.
Oh, dude, yeah.
But he's absolutely positive that Alex killed the hooker.
For no other reason other than... he's tall.
Yeah, and he wears a jacket.
Yes, because the guy was like, well, he had bandages all over his face. And he's like, well, how do you know if he looked like me if he had bandages on his face? He's like, you're about his height and wearing a coat. And that was seriously like the delivery of the line.
And then and Alex gets back, goes, I'm a college kid. Every college kid has this coat. And I'm thinking, it looks like a Vietnam era jacket.
Yeah, it's totally like a hand-me-down army coat from his dad or whatever who was in Nam.
And then I thought about it in '88. I'm wondering if that's actually the case. Or if a college kid didn't have a lot of money, they had to go to a thrift shop, and a lot of people were selling Vietnam military stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if that was true or not, but at the same time, I was like, that's a fucking far-fetch.
Yeah. But I mean, at least we can put a little more backstory to Alex, even if it's not canon.
There you go. Yes. So the cop's on the case. That's the second to last time we see the cop.
Yes.
It's the first time and the second to last time. That plot is really razor thin.
Oh, yes. Lori goes and does investigating because she's mad at Alex. She
Yes.
gave her a key to the apartment earlier, and he's like, here's a key to my apartment. I forgot that she had it. I thought she was breaking into his apartment. She wasn't. She just had a key. So she goes snooping, finds a red box for some reason of mementos from the murders, finds a shoe, doesn't think, she finds a high heel, she finds a razor blade, she finds all these things, but the shoe, she goes, that's it, he's fucking cheating on me. And then he catches her in the room, and that's when our final fight starts.
Oh, okay, we missed the homeboy scene.
Oh, we got to go back to the homeboy scene. My apologies. Okay. Connecting dots.
Between the hooker and Lori finding the shoe, which was a shoe. I read that scene as differently, which I'd like to bring up after this.
Okay.
The homeboy scene feels really crowbarred into the movie.
Oh, yeah.
It almost felt like they didn't have enough footage, so they shot something else, and they got probably the worst, the best actors.
Yes.
Who were denied from Samurai Cop.
Oh, God, yeah. Dude, these guys, the pauses in their performance, like, it's like they were just like, they'd pause, and they knew, it's like the director was like, all right, pause for 5 seconds if you don't know your line, and I will put it up on a cue card. Because their delivery, they're just like, there's so many pauses and like hesitations.
This, like the rest of the scene, the rest of the movie felt very straightforward. It felt very poignant. It felt like they were actually trying to say something and build a mythos and create a lore. This scene felt comedic.
Oh, definitely.
But I don't think it was. I think it was comedic for the wrong reason, though.
Yes, like they wanted this to be a really, tense, I guess would be the right word. They wanted it to be a tense scene, but it turned out to be like really fucking goofy, like the super crack scene in Frankenhooker.
Yes.
Like that's kind of the vibe I got from it.
And oh my God, anyone out there, first of all, send us food, send us help, then go watch Frankenhooker.
Yes. Oh God, I love Frankenhooker.
Highly misunderstood and undervalued film. It's actually really good. So essentially this scene, the homeboy scene, is Alex is walking down the street, bandaged up, gored up on his face, slimed up, and these 3 or 4 black guys stop him and drag him into an alleyway where they're going to mug him. They're like, give me money.
Yep.
And the guy, Alex doesn't have any money. And instead of fighting back, the guy stabs him, and the stomach on Alex, his abs open up, and there's teeth on in his stomach, and it chomps off the guy's arm. And the reaction on the other guy's face, I'm going to call him a homeboy because that's how they're labeled in the credits. They're labeled as homeboys in the credits. I swear to God, I am not being racist with this.
Nope. That is what they're called.
And then the reaction on the guy's face is fucking priceless. I mean, the tape easily wore out for how many times we had to rewind this and laugh at this reaction scene. And then they get up and run away, and then they run back into the scene to grab the boombox.
Yes. When he came back for the boombox, that was when I was like, oh, this is a wonderful scene.
Yeah. I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was amazing. And I thought if they would have went after the film with that kind of attitude, this movie might have gone down in history as a cult humor classic.
Oh, totally agreed.
I think it would have been far more on the realm of Unmasked, where it was actually like they knew what they were doing in Unmasked. Call it what you may, as successful or not, but they knew what they were doing.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I thought if they would have if they would have gone after the rest of the Slime City with this kind of tongue-in-cheek attitude, I think this movie would be far more well-known.
I appreciate that they took it very seriously and they really thought that they were doing something amazing.
Yes.
That's honestly what makes it watchable, because I feel like with the actors that we have here, if they would have gone for that that humorous angle, it would have been way too muggy. It would have been
I think so too.
too hokey.
Yes. I'm not saying it would have been better. I'm just saying it would have been more well known. And you're right. I think especially going into the last scene, I'm really glad they kept it serious. So let's talk about the last scene.
Yes. This is okay. So we're gonna jump back again. We jumped around now. Okay, so we're in the final fight. She finds the shoe. He catches her in the apartment, and now it's time for the final fight. So, hang on. One last thing I think we need to address here is that right before this happened, Nicole performed a very erotic dance.
Yep.
And this plays into the mythos, I think, and we'll talk about it in a minute. But I need you guys to know there was an erotic dance performed. Again, no nudity.
Importance.
Okay. Yes. So they get into this fight, and can I just tell you one thing I loved about the location that they had for this apartment? Because there are several scenes where it's like I want to try and paint a picture for you so you have a visual for all of those who haven't seen it. You walk through the door, and you're in like the kitchen/living room. And then by the kitchen, there's a hallway. You go down the hallway to where I can assume is the bedroom and potentially a bathroom. So when they did the edits are a little late on every scene where they're in an altercation, and that you can see them standing still just off screen in the hallway,
right,
until the director calls action, and then they start moving. So you always see the wind up before the payoff, and it's hilarious to me to see that. But anyways, so Alec and Laurie are in a huge fight. He's all slimed up and nasty, and they had just had sex for the first time as well. I think I need to clarify. They had sex for the first time. And see, even I'm jumping around now. Wait, so he catches her. She's got the shoe, and then they have sex? And then fight.
Before that, I think. Oh, no, it was after that because, they catch the shoe. He's like, no, baby, don't worry. Everything's okay. And she's like, okay, let's have sex. And then she comes out with his shirt on and the collar popped.
And he's massaging her and too hard. And she says, Alex, you're hurting me. And he says, no, I'm killing you.
No, I'm killing you.
Careful. Alex, you're hurting me.
No, I'm killing you.
This is when the final fight starts, right?
Yes.
So they're fighting each other. It's I don't have a good way to describe the build up until the end, but essentially they fight each other. Laurie stabs Alex in the leg with a fork, and he says, "Little girls shouldn't play with knives," and then pulls a fork out of his leg. And then she beats the motherfucking shit out of him. His stomach mouth makes a second appearance, and I'm trying to remember. Oh, she gets a meat cleaver. Mm-hmm. And she chops his head off, and his head is still alive. I'm going to sneeze.
Right.
I was going to sneeze. I'm sorry.
Right before she chops her head off, though, she guts him, and all of his hot dogs and brats and pasta collection falls out. Like all the hot dogs that he's been stealing from the local kids falls out onto the floor.
And he puts it back in.
And I think if the gore would have looked cooler here, if it would have looked like intestines, that would have been creepy as shit.
Yeah, I agree.
But it was literally hot dogs and pasta.
And then it's like his
mustard.
His stomach wound was like a backpack, and he was just shoving all of that back into the backpack of a stomach wound. There are moments during this fight where he has like a small bit of humanity again, and he's Alex again.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those moments is when she's got a meat cleaver in his neck, and he begs her to kill him and to end it. So she rips his head off with this cleaver, and his now decapitated head is still alive, and his headless body is now alive. And she chops off his arms with the cleaver. Mm-hmm. And then the body falls onto the couch. She Oh gosh, there's so much that happened in such a short amount of time. And then the body like started spewing slime, so the body eventually dies, and then she walks over to his head, and she cuts off the top of his head, and his brain comes out and starts crawling across the hardwoods.
Mm-hmm.
So then she takes the cleaver and she chops the brain in half, and then I think that's when it dies.
And you can see the track in the floor because it's a black and white tiled floor, and there's one black line between the black and whites. And I remember looking at that going like, why is that black line there? And like, sure enough, that's there as a track system for the brain to crawl across, very similar to how they did in Evil Dead 2 with the hand.
Yes. So that happens, and now Laurie's fucked in the head, so she goes away. And the cop comes back, and essentially to shore everything up, all the murders were blamed on Alex because he's dead. The house goes on living, and guess who wants to rent the room now?
The same guy who called the apartment a shithole the first time we saw him, the cop, he literally said the place was a shithole. And why? The place, it never looked bad from the outside, but sure enough, the cop is like, this place is a shithole. Is the apartment available?
Yeah, but then he was like, no, it's really nice up there. I think I might rent it.
Yeah.
What the fuck? And then the old ladies who might have been married were like, we'll come back after we clean it. And then they end on the humorous note of, we didn't even need to place an ad this time.
I always call this kind of ending a remote control ending because I think Remote Control, the movie, was the first movie I ever saw with like a really bad ending where like the good guys didn't win.
Yeah.
The aliens or whoever it was won in that movie. And it's like the bad guys won. The bad guys will continue on killing and infecting people with slime. But again, the slime never leaves outside of the apartment.
Which is interesting. And it's also interesting, we're saying good guys and bad guys. There were neither in this movie, I felt.
Very
like
true.
There were nefarious people. And you would call them bad. I mean, they're murdering people, these spirits, but they're not really a direct threat outside of their own survival. It's I don't know, like there were no good guys. There's no like hero protagonist. Yeah. There was just the main character, and things happened to him, and that's kind of like life in a way. So I kind of liked that. It was just like, here's a window into this guy's fucked up life.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's a lot to be said out of writing a script that there is not black white. It's not Star Wars. It's not like these are the good guys, these are the bad guys. Root for the good guys and hate the bad guys. It's where do your allegiances lie, and then we're gonna twist that on its head.
Right, and the cult really didn't seem to care about the outside world. Outside of they needed people to kill to satiate those carnal urges, but there was no like, we're going to take over the world, or we'll make everybody have the slime and then we'll change humanity. There was no ulterior motive or bigger plot. It was just like, hey, we're in this slime shit, now we got to survive. It was really weird.
That is good. So as we're glowing about this movie, because the movie was definitely far better than
so much better than Roller Gator,
the shit we watched last week. It was like, I think Andrew brought it up best. The mythos of this was actually pretty strong. Like they created like a little universe and plot points, and
I kind of want more of it because I want to know.
There is a sequel.
Oh.
And I won't go far into it, but I have seen the sequel, and it is dog shit compared to the first one. So I am sorry.
That's surprising, but not unexpected.
Yeah.
But I was really interested in the different colors, the fact that they had rules around the slime, different colored slime. A person could only have one type of slime.
Well, because the slime are the people.
Right.
It is the ectoplasm from the original members of the group, and like Roman, he was the blue slime.
Right.
So that's why he only ever ate the blue slime.
And it's interesting. So I want to quickly touch on this because there was one scene, and it's probably just they ran out of resources. But if we want to look at this with a mythos behind it, so Alex always sweats yellow slime, even though he is eating green slime. So the green slime is dear leader Zachary, who is that's the leader of the cult. That's whose slime soul he's eating. But he's always eating yellow. Or he is always sweating yellow when it comes to this. So, but there's one scene, I think it's either with the homeboys or it's with the hooker, where a little dab of green slime comes out of his forehead.
Oh, I did see that. I thought it was kind of weird that it would do that, but it was like just one droplet.
Right, and I'm thinking that again, if you go back into to draw parallels to a decent movie, if you go back and watch The Conjuring, there are rules that Ed Warren sets forth within a haunting, and he says there's oppression, there's it's like something oppression possession, and so but there are stages that you go through where the first stage is innocent, the second stage is a little more serious, and then the third stage you're fucked. And I think we're taking a similar progression with the Zachary, the cult leader, taking over Alex slowly but surely as he gets more invested in the slime. I think that scene was when he dripped that little bit of green blood and he was still sweating yellow. I think he sweats yellow because he's in between, right?
Oh, I didn't put that together. That's really clever.
Because what in yellow make green? Is it blue and yellow make green?
Yes.
So, and Roman was blue and he's yellow. So they ate dinner that night, and then he had the green slime. So I think him and Roman, Roman was already turned, and he was like in the middle, and that little bit of green that dripped out of his forehead, I think that was showing in a way that Zachary was taking over. It was beginning to take over his body. I wish there would have been more green slime at the end as opposed to yellow.
Especially at the end, because he was mostly yellow at the end.
Right. So I thought that was interesting around the mythos. They built a lot of cool stuff. I just kind of wish I knew the purpose of it. Like, what was the purpose of the cult? What were they trying to achieve?
So that is talked about in the sequel. There's a lot of flashback scenes that could be a prequel. While the majority of the sequel does concern itself about the future, I think it takes place like 10 years in the future of today. It's like, past World War III.
Right.
But they do talk about the prequel elements about why the cult is formed, about having immortality through the flesh. You discover that, there's a lot more story. So I think for that aspect, the sequel is really cool because it does divulge more into the mythos.
Okay, see, I might dig it. It's probably bad, but they
fast
built
forward through major plot.
Yeah, honestly, they built something I'm intrigued by here, and I think that's what's kind of making me appreciate it a little bit more because it's like they thought about this. They put a lot of effort into this, into building a fairly solid foundation for something. They just didn't get there, but what they got was pretty good.
Sorry, I didn't mean to over talk about you, but
good.
I really wanted to touch on the fact that you're right, is that they did think about the things, because if you just eat the slime, it won't do anything. You have to eat the slime and drink the alcohol for the process to actually work. So if someone were to just eat the slime or just drink the alcohol, nothing would happen.
Right, exactly. You have to have both. And that's that alchemy piece.
Correct. Right. Which, again, is, smart. It's cool lore. It's cool mythos.
Yeah, I mean it's no Lovecraft, but it's intriguing. That's more than you see.
It's like it's touching the door frame of Lovecraft.
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah, I agree because he has a lot of like body horror like that.
Now we are glowing about this movie, but I do have to complain about a couple things.
Oh, please do.
Holy fuck, the lighting, dude.
Oh, it was bad.
The lighting was obviously just a shop. Like, they didn't have any film lights. They didn't have any control over the film lights. They didn't have any scrims or diffusion to make it softer and more, realistic. They used just a shop light, a halogen shop light. And they used 1 or 2 per scene just to brighten the scene and not to add any context or visual flow of the feeling you're supposed to feel in each scene. It was just like, let's make this scene as bright as possible so people can see what's happening.
Yes, it was basic. It was pure and basic. I want people to see.
And that took me out of the movie more than anything else. I was willing to jump on board with the plot, with the mythos. I mean, like, here we are, like, we're an hour into this review and we enjoyed this movie.
Yeah.
But the filmmaking aspects, the editing and the lighting and the fucking framing were just dog shit awful.
Oh, it was abysmal.
So, like, I don't want to go down that road of bitching about the movie because I think there was so much good about it and I'd rather focus on that. But the last thing that I'd like to really bring up is the idea of being gay in the film.
Yes.
And we didn't touch on this, and you and I had made comments while watching it. In the beginning of the film, we thought Alex was a gay man.
Yes, absolutely.
Him and his quote-unquote friend, Lori, were looking for an apartment, and we thought, or at least I thought, that when I found out that she was not moving in with him, I thought that, oh my God, here's a friend who went out of her way to, like Three's Company, with the homophobic landlord, would look at a gay man trying to get his apartment and say, no, you can't live here because you're gay. And he moves in, like, he's very flamboyant in his speech, in the way he acts and the way he reacts to other people. He's very welcoming and kind. And, it's very like it seemed to me very obvious that Alex was gay in the same fashion of the main character from Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, that he was raging against coming out of the closet. And every scene in that movie felt very much like the character needs to come out to unleash this horror, like quote unquote horror of being gay onto the world. And he just kept fighting it over and over, yada, yada. So it felt like that. And then when he said he was attracted to the neighbor, it kind of threw me off guard. And it really threw me off guard when he said that Lori was his girlfriend and they hadn't had sex. It's like, well, I thought they hadn't had sex because he wasn't ready, because he wasn't sure of his own lining up.
And the way that he delivered some of the lines and the way that it was talked about, like,
yes,
he was saying it like almost forcefully defiant, like, but we haven't had sex yet. Like, he made a bigger deal out of it than it needed to be, which makes me think that it's forced and it's fake, because it's an act. Because he really didn't, and even going back to when he and Nicole got together, they were fully clothed. They were fully clothed when they had sex.
Okay.
She just started moaning. So, I mean, really, in a way, she kind of raped him.
Yeah. Oh no, I do agree with that. It was definitely seduction rape. It was. She chose it. She brought him in. I mean, she seduced him more than anything. But yes. I do agree.
She is the aggressor. She is the pursuer.
Yes.
In this, and she didn't care one way or the other what his sexuality was. But yes, it was interesting. He would complain about not having sex, but at the same time, he didn't actively pursue it. Everybody pursued him.
And I'll also say that I think that was another big reason why I thought he was gay, and that everyone was so it was this in the 80s when being a gay man or gay woman was it was still frowned upon by society. So having a place of refuge and safety where everyone welcomes him, it was kind of like an allegory of saying, come out, you are among friends, you are safe here. And that's where I thought the story was going, and I don't think they touched on it enough for that to be a legitimate subplot of the film.
No, it was just inklings, but there were things that like there was more than just him. There was the two women that owned the apartment building.
Right.
The way that they talked and interacted with each other, I thought that they were a couple.
Right, exactly, which I thought was the whole idea of like, hey, you're safe here. This is a haven. You can be who you want to be. You can be that person that you want to be. You can be the sexuality that you want to be. You are free here. And everyone was so open and forthcoming. And I really thought that was going to be a driving point until it was kind of obvious that they were trying to make Alex a straight character, and it never felt right.
Right, exactly. And I think that they're, given the fact that a lot of these cults based on, carnal, representation and things like that, I think it makes sense that there would be openly gay characters,
totally,
or bisexual, whatever you want to have it, or just agnostic, and they'll just, shit, I'll do anything. I feel like those types of people would be represented in a cult like this, so it makes sense that those were the members.
Agreed. Overall, what did you think of the film?
Honestly, I thought it was pretty entertaining. I didn't do a lot of time checks, so it kept me engaged. It kept me guessing, even if it was just to figure out what the fuck was going on sometimes. But honestly, it was pretty good. I really kind of liked it.
I feel the same way. The quality of the film is very low. If you were just to watch it without any kind of pre-consideration or understanding of the era or the type of budget they're probably working on, I could understand a lot of people being turned off just by the visual aspects of this film. But I think if you take into consideration that they were trying to do something grand on a small budget, and seeing the work that they actually put into this, I was pleasantly surprised with this film.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially the ending with how the prosthetics looked. It looked pretty good.
Obviously where their budget went.
Yeah, that's 100% of where their budget went. But man, it surprised me that how decent it was.
Yeah, me too. So on that note, Andrew, I have 2 videotapes here.
Oh, it's that time.
It is that time.
What hell will we get into next week?
Hold on. Let me mix them around. So for those of you who aren't here with us, which is obviously everyone, because I think most people are dead.
I think so too.
From the pandemic. We still have half this video store to go through. And I've been pulling off 2 random tapes every time we do this. And I don't even look at them. So I don't even know what's in the other hand until I put it back on the shelf, and I groan miserably at hoping that we should have watched the other one instead of Roller Gator. I have 2 tapes behind my back. Andrew, go ahead and pick a hand, left or right.
Let's go left hand this time.
Left hand is Doom Asylum.
Doom Asylum. Okay.
I have not heard of this movie.
I am familiar with it only because it had an actress that I've been a fan of. She was in some really low budget stuff, and actually not a lot. I don't think she has a lot of credits to her name, but actually this ties in really well to what we were talking about earlier. So the actress that I really wanted to see this movie for was Patty Mullen, and that name doesn't sound familiar, but she was the hooker in Frankenhooker.
But as we've learned, even the worst low-looking films can be very good, except for Roller Gator.
Yeah, yes, everything except for Roller Gator. But yeah, so I'm really glad we talked about Frankenhooker a lot, because that's kind of cool, because I think this is Patty Mullen's like one of her only other movies. I think she's only made a couple of movies. Frankenhooker was her last. And then Doom Asylum, I think, was like late 80s. Frankenhooker was 90s, but Doom Asylum was late 80s. And then I think she was only in like maybe 1 or 2 other movies. So, wow. I mean, I think Patty Mullen is great. I think she's really funny. She's got good comedic timing.
Oh my God, she was fantastic. Again, Frankenhooker, if you haven't seen it, do yourself the favor. It's not just a crappy title. It's really good.
Yes, I would stay away from the other movie made by the guy that did Frankenhooker because it is not good.
What was the other one?
So the guy that directed Frankenhooker, his name it's something really weird. Am I thinking of the right person? Oh, his name was Frank Hellenlauder. But there's another movie that this guy did, another Frankenstein, and his name is like Captain Creepy or something like that.
Okay.
And no, I'm not. Damn it! What is it? Hang on. Let's see if I can find it in our database on the computer inside of the video store.
I am so happy that thing's still working. The amount of people who owe late fees is staggering.
Oh, dude, no joke. I kind of want to call him just to see if we can get anyone to answer, but I do think the phone lines are down right now.
Yeah, the phone hasn't worked since we tried to order that pizza one time and no one answered. So
I know that was a bummer too. I really could have gone for. Man, I wish we could find a DiGiorno in here.
Oh, maybe if we dig in the back, we'll find something.
Yeah, there are freezers back there. I know we found ice cream.
Oh, I hope we don't find anything spooky.
Oh.
Like Ben and Jerry's.
Ah, too much cream.
Our tape is starting to wind down here, Andrew. We need that answer quickly.
Okay. Well,
what was Dookie Fly Feistwater's name? Sorry, I am obsessed with that name.
I do not know if I'm going to be able to find it. I'm looking here.
All right, let's hope the internet still exists somewhere.
We're not going to find it unless
we're not going to find it in time for this beta tape to be done.
Tape is leaving.
Andrew, I'm going to keep fixing this. Andrew, you call for help. I'm going to fix this beta tape. Hold on.
Okay, remember everybody, we are in Rewind Video Store.
We're watching these movies and reaching out to you every week through our modded Betamax player.
You can contact us and find us.
The number for this place,
Even though the phone lines are...
and we're still going to give you a phone number. It starts at